Scott Hughes. Good morning, Mr. Scott. Happy New Year. Welcome back to Kiel. Always nice talking to you.
Good morning. How are y'all this morning?
We're good.
We are sort of, I'm not going to say making a list. We are assessing the damage, the havoc, the changes in a variety of economic areas in 2020 caused by coronavirus, the shutdowns, the restrictions, etc. Wanted to talk to you about the real estate market. Was there a noticeable effect on real estate, both commercial and residential, in the area because of COVID-19?
There was, but I don't think it's in the way that people thought that it would be. And in all honesty, we didn't anticipate what happened either. And I do just want to clarify, Robert, I am not actually a licensed realtor. I'm the CEO of the association, but I don't hold a license. I am just a business manager for the collective services, including the multi-listing service and the Realtor Association. But I do run the MLS, and I have all the numbers, and they did surprise us this year.
I'm looking at a piece that says, and it's shocking, and it's from a real estate group, and it said the housing market has seen record-breaking growth since June. Is that true?
It is true, Aaron. And first, to put it in some context, when we entered 2020, and I've been the CEO of the Realtor Association, this is my 6th year. And so the 5 years that I had been there before, starting back to 2014, we actually had been seeing increased sales in terms of number of units sold and in terms of the average value of the transaction, meaning the average sales price of a home. That number had been going up every year since 2014. So 2019, we were already at a plateau. We were already at the highest we had been at in sort of the modern era for home sales and for volume. And then when we hit March 13th, we really thought that that would be a detriment to the real estate market. But April was a little sluggish. People didn't know what was happening. It got a little scary. We had to do some new protocols in terms of how we could show a house. We had to do more online and virtual showing and closings. But then starting about May or June, we saw an explosion in home sales like nothing we've ever seen.
And
we don't really have any inventory to sell.
Analyze for me. Why?
A couple of reasons, Robert, just to give you some numbers. In 2000, and I don't normally do math on the radio, y'all know that, but in 2018, we sold about 5,100 homes. This year, with still really 2 days to go in the year, and December 31st is a big day for closings, we're near 5,800 homes sold. That's almost 700 more units sold. The volume is up 24% over 2 years to $1.26 billion is the value of the homes sold in our community. But here's the key number for most of your listeners. In 2018, the average home sold for $178,000, and that's a 2-3, roughly 1,600 square feet. Today, that home is selling for $195,000, or up about $23,000, and that's rather significant. I have talked to my brokers; they're the licensees, they're the realtors, and what they tell me is several things. Number one, pandemic put people in their homes, and people started looking around and realizing, if the future is going to be different, I may want to live in a different place. For some people, they don't have to live as close to their work as they used to. They can live out in the country. They could have a lake house. They could live somewhere else because they're not going to go to the office every day. Many people needed more space. Home offices have become very popular. Homes with pools have become very popular.
But who was buying? Who was buying, Scott? You know, with so many of us without jobs, who are the ones who are buying? That's what I'm mystified about.
Well, and Aaron, that's what I'll be honest. That's what we remain mystified about, because you've not seen a lot of population growth in the Shreveport Bossier area. So we are seeing a lot of people moving around. We are seeing some people moving, and as I said, COVID has made it where you can live anywhere. And Northwest Louisiana is a very attractive place to live in terms of quality of life. We have low housing prices. Even though our housing price has gone up, we are well below the national average for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, or really a house in general. We have a wonderful climate. We have a nice amenities around the area. And so we don't know if people are moving in yet. We'll have to look for the census data. We think people are moving around. What we have seen is, well, one factor that was key was low interest rates. Interest rates have continued to drop over the last 2 or 3 years. And if you've not been to the bank lately, they are now below 3, well below 3% in many cases. And that is almost a record low for an interest rate. So that has allowed a lot of people to move up in a house. You may have been living in a house in one neighborhood and you've always wanted to move to a bigger house, well, now the same amount of money, your monthly note, can buy you more house because of the interest rate. Interest could be the single biggest factor in your ability to get a house and to move up in the house. So we've seen people moving out of smaller neighborhoods into bigger neighborhoods, and we've seen a lot of first-time home buyers able to come into the market, people who were renting.
Would you say real estate, that business overall, is booming? Would you go there?
I think that would be an actual fair statement to make. We would never have guessed that in March. But as we sit here in December of 2020, real estate had the best year, according to many, it's ever had in the history of Shreveport and Bossier. You may have to go back to the 50s, post-World War II, when a lot of the big expansions, A.C. Steer, when those kinds of people were building subdivisions to see as many units as we have sold. It has been a very good year for the real estate market. Now, individual agents can have an up or down year, but generally the companies, the brokerages, and the market as a whole has been as good as it has ever been in this community.
Do you anticipate the same thing for early into mid, even late, the whole year of 2021? What do you see? Is the light at the end of the tunnel very bright?
If I had that crystal ball, Robert, I'd be buying and selling property myself. But I think it's fair to say what's happened the last 8 months, the last 2 years, I don't think it can continue forever. Interest rates will remain key. All indications are the Federal Reserve plans to keep interest rates at these low rates for a while to help stimulate the economy. That will obviously continue to spur investment. But at a certain point, we just sort of have to hit a ceiling. There's only so many houses to sell. There's only so many people who can move or refinance. And remember, our numbers don't count refinance. I did not sell a house in the last 2 years, but I did refinance my house at the low interest rate. So while I'm not a sale, I'm probably not moving from my now 2.5% interest rate in my home. And I think there's a lot of people in the community that have refinanced as well. So we anticipate sales will remain strong probably the first half of the year in 2021. But then there's going to come a point where we just don't have the inventory to sell. And to put that in perspective, in the 6 years I've been the CEO, on an average day, we have 2,000 homes for sale in Northwest Louisiana on the MLS. Today, we are down near 1,000 on our inventory count. So we are down 50% almost on our inventory count, and that's over the 7 parishes. And so you hit a point where there's just not that much inventory for people to buy, and now we're seeing a problem with new construction. New construction got caught, and so a lot of the developers didn't have the land plats ready to go. They didn't have the lots ready to sell, and now with the supply chain, lumber is hard to get, appliances are hard to get. It's going to be harder and harder to build new houses for a couple of months. So we're going to see some demand continue, but at some point we're going to hit a ceiling unless we start bringing new people into our community. But housing values and housing sales remain strong and probably will do so for at least another 6 months.